What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for stopping by. Today I'd like to kind of do an honest review of the 2017 Can-Am X3 XRS. But I almost feel like I have to start out by saying a review is an opinion. Just all opinion. Quick backstory. I'm relatively new to the off-road scene, especially the side-by-side scene. Up until last year, I actually had never even heard of a side-by-side. I had no idea what it was. I've always been a car guy. I had a 2006 BMW M3. That was my baby for the longest time. My wife and I, we used to just cruise around in that thing, and that's how we spent our weekends, out just cruising the streets. Actually, I have a picture of it right here. Yep. But as things do, they get old, they get miles on them. So I had to make a decision. Do I want to sell it to get another vehicle, or stick some money into it and keep this one? Because I like to have a toy. We decided to sell it, and at the time we were going to purchase another car. I hadn't decided which one yet, but I had a buddy who always would go out to the dunes and trails and such on his quad, and he told me, hey man, if you guys are looking for something to do, you know, why not look into like a side-by-side or a quad or something like that? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. So I did a little bit of research. Turns out, hey, speeding on the streets will get you tickets, jack up your car insurance and all that good stuff, but driving in the sand dunes and on trails, almost anything goes. That sounds like a pretty good idea. So my wife and I, we were deciding to do the whole side-by-side thing, because we could obviously ride together. Quads, we have to have one of our own. I didn't know anything about side-by-sides, so I didn't know about this whole, I almost want to call it a blood feud between Polaris RZR owners and Can-Am Maverick owners. I was completely oblivious to it, especially when I went to my local dealership and said, hey, my wife and I are interested in side-by-sides, show them to me. So I didn't really know what I was looking for. So the dealership, the sales guy, we had ourselves a 2016 RZR and then a 2016 Maverick XRS Turbo at the time, right next to each other, you know, and he pretty much just told me they're almost the same machine. They both have high-powered turbo engines. The Polaris naturally had a better suspension, but when I looked at them, the Maverick was like $2,000 cheaper. It came with the B-lock rims. It had the exhaust on it. It had the harnesses came with it. So to me, it just kind of seemed like, you know, a little more bang for my buck. So I didn't really know what I was missing or what was going on. I had no idea. So we went with that. It was a good machine, but its limitations were obvious once I actually got into it and started running with it. The thing was super fast in a straight line, but I quickly learned that turning could be complicated, especially when driving fast. It did not seem very stable. As well as the seating, the seats were extremely comfortable, but the position of them combined with the less than adequate suspension on it, when the bumps got rough, so did the ride. I can specifically remember multiple times trying to drive aggressively, keeping up with all the other guys out in the dunes, you know, over the deep whoops and the G-outs and stuff. And the seat was just pounding my back so hard that like it would knock my goggles down, my vision would go funny, and my heart actually felt like it was beating irregularly, you know. So yeah, I was terrified to get air with it. I would not jump it. because I was afraid I was going to flip it or roll it, something like that. It was just, you could really see the limitations of it. And then I broke the belt, and changing the belt on that thing was horrible. It took like 30 minutes my first time. I did end up having to do it again. It only took me like 15 minutes the second time, now that, you know, once I knew what was going on with it. But the position of it was just retarded. It was just a dumb spot to put the belt. And that's when I almost want to say that Polaris and Can-Am people are kind of like Android and iPhone people. You know, it's like they're die-hard one or the other, you know, and they're almost hostile towards the other, you know, the other group of people. And I was turned off by that. So when I talk about this car, it's just opinion, you know, it's just opinion. I'm not biased or partial towards one or the other. They're both amazing machines. I literally just bought the 2016 because in my opinion I thought it looked a little nicer and it came with the goodies, you know. That's how I got started on the Can-Am path. It's not because I thought it was a better machine. But yeah, so just in the spirit of the iPhone and Android user, there's a lot of truth to that analogy, because in the past, iPhones, right, they kind of pioneered the way. They were very, very good, ahead of their time, super easy to use, very reliable, you know, and then Android tried to come on the market and they were clunky, you know, nobody really knew how to use them well, they weren't intuitive, and a lot could be said for the RZR and the Maverick, right? So Polaris kind of was the first true pure sport side by side, and you know, based on what I've gathered, and then the others tried to come out with a pure sport side by side. You know, Yamaha, Arctic Cat, Polaris, and Can-Am, but none of them were quite as good. So naturally, the Polaris was the originator, you know, so they were the ones that, and their machines were great, you know, they had the best suspension at the time, they were fast, you know, they looked nice. But just as times do, things change. Now, I'm not saying Polaris got any worse, and I'm not saying iPhone got any worse, but Android got better, and Can-Am got better, right? So that's where this machine comes in. I had just bought the 2016. I had only had it for one season. I knew I was hooked. You know, off-roading was a blast. My wife loved it. We had a lot of fun. We have sand dunes on Lake Michigan here. I'm from Michigan. So it's an awesome view, awesome sand dunes, and we have miles and miles and miles of trails. Michigan is a very awesome place for off-roading because you get both the dunes and the trails relatively close by. I was hooked. So then when I heard that Can-Am was releasing a new vehicle, I was curious. So I watched the drop of it on Facebook, and I was sold. I was sold instantly. I'm not going to go into a lot of the technical specs. You can do a Google search for all that stuff. Everybody knows about 22 inches of travel on the front, 24 inches of travel on the back, 154 horsepower 3-cylinder turbo. You know, those things, there's not much to talk about. They're awesome, right? So I'm hoping that I can kind of maybe point out some stuff that you might not have read online or just didn't know, you know, and you're curious about. So yeah, anyway, once I saw the machine, you know, all of my frustrations about the 2016 were fixed in this machine, right? The suspension, way better. More power. Who doesn't like more power? They moved the belt from underneath the driver, between the driver and passenger seat to the rear. Much easier to get to. and it just looks sexy. I mean, it's a good looking machine. You can't deny that it looks good. So I was talking to my wife, and it's like, man, look at this new one. You know, we just bought a 2016, and look what they're coming out with now. And after I showed her this one, you know, the pictures of it, she's like, man, yours looks like a lawnmower now. I'm like, what? How am I supposed to go out and drive it now and you just call it a lawnmower? You know? And I'm like, well, let me text the dealership, because the guy at the dealership, he gave me his phone number. So I had sent him a text, and I was like, look, if you can give me this amount on trade-in, I'll buy the new one. And I was asking for a pretty dumb number, because it was a brand new machine. I only had 5 months on it, had about 500 miles. I was like, hey, he's not going to do it. And he texted me back and said, deal. I was like, what? So I sold the BMW to get the first one, and then I sold the other one to get this one. Never looking back. This machine is freaking awesome. So the other one, like I was saying, I would go to take turns, too scared to take turns hard. The thing would roll. I felt like it was going to roll. Very unstable. And I want to comment, a lot of people now are talking about how unstable the X3 is, and it almost kind of seems to me like, I don't know, I don't want to say it, but like they're being haters. It almost sounds like, you know, like they're just mad. You know, they're saying, oh, the X3, you know, they just combined the RZR, you know, and the Yamaha and the Can-Am. And I just smile and say, so what? You know, I mean, if you're going to tell me that, okay, you can have the best of that one, you can have the best of that one, and you can have the best of that one, and we'll put them all together, I think that's pretty cool. You know, I got the suspension now. I got a fast turbo motor. I got the 3-cylinder motor, and it looks nice. It looks really, really good. So I've only had the opportunity to take this thing out twice. It's pretty, ain't it? Because we're in winter now, and they didn't release until the end of the year. But I can tell you that the thing is stable. It is on a rail. I was cooking down the trails. I was hitting mid-80s on the straights, and it was just floating over the bumps. Didn't even hardly feel them. Hit the corners, 45, 50 miles an hour, 4-wheel drive, slides. Never once did I feel like the machine was unstable. Never one time did I feel like the thing was going to tip or it was going to come off the trail. Nothing. I never felt that in the other one. Never. You know, and just the pure performance of it is ridiculous. The other one was fast. There's just something about this one that's, I don't know, it just feels a lot faster. It's probably because it's more stable. You know, and I see all kinds of people talking about drag racing the new 2017 RZR versus, you know, the new X3. And sure, you know, why not? I seen a video of a 2017 RZR on the street drag racing a 2017 RZR on, they're both stock, and the RZR edged it out by about a half a car. Awesome. I also saw a video of a DS, the X3 DS, running a stock 2017 RZR up a dune and the Can-Am 1. It's all about driving, you know, and brake stands, you know, things like that. But to be honest, the XRS is not a drag machine. This machine is about 100 pounds heavier than a DS. The wheels are bigger. The DS has 29-inch wheels, I think. These ones have 30 all the way around. The extra weight comes mainly from the tires, the beefier suspension, and the A-arms on this machine are a bit beefier than on the DS as well. It's a heavier machine, and again, when you have more travel, the torque when you get on the gas, all that torque and power is first transferred into the suspension before it's put to the ground. So when you have more travel, more suspension, the suspension is going to eat up a little bit of that power before it actually gets to the ground. So the DS, not as much travel, it's about 100 pounds lighter, the tires are a little bit smaller. I feel like that one probably would have been a better comparison between a street drag race between the new RZR and the X3. But again, it's whatever. You know, the machines are amazing. They're amazing. So, some stuff about this machine that you might not find quite so quick on Google or YouTube, other reviews. One of my favorite ones is the cage. So the cage on this one is fully welded. There's no bolts. You know, the thing came together. It's one continuous piece, and it's made out of a really lightweight but super strong metal. It makes the machine extremely rigid, and I think that that's where a lot of the stability comes from. And I apologize if my voice is getting a little shaky. It's freezing out here. I didn't start up a fire when we were working with here. It is 32 degrees in my barn, which means it's probably 28 degrees outside. It's a little chilly. But yeah, the frame, the cage on this thing is super strong. It's all one piece, which is going to lend a lot of help if the machine were to roll or you were to get into an accident. There's not as many breaking points. But it does come with pre-drilled brackets, so if you wanted to cut the cage to have an aftermarket cage put on, it's super easy, and I'm sure you've seen plenty of pictures of people doing just that. One of the other really cool things that you might not hear about right off the top, the seats. The seats in this thing are phenomenal. They were designed by the people who designed seats for Ferrari. Super comfortable. They adjust forward, backward, up, down. The angle, the position, just great. They're extremely comfortable seats. As well, the gas tank is on the top above the passenger seat. And I thought that was kind of cool when I read about why they did it. For the people who drive hard, you know, in the dunes, or sorry to do with one hand. People who drive hard in the dunes, or desert racing, or trail riding, the risk of underbody punctures, objects coming up through the bottom of the machine and piercing the gas tank is eliminated by having the gas tank up top like that. And I just happen to think that that was kind of cool. Also, reliability. The brakes have different master cylinders for the front and rear. So a single failure is not going to take out all your brakes. Just little stuff like that I thought was pretty cool. So they still have the learner's key. So you have the fast and slow key, which I thought was pretty cool. But they're not keys this time. I didn't bring my keys out here, otherwise I'd show you. But I'm sure you've seen other pictures or other videos. It's like a little clip, kind of like they do on the Ski-Doos and the Sea-Doos. And the engine. Something that you don't really hear about too much about the motor is this Ace motor, this 900cc motor that they have in this machine. It's not a brand new motor. That motor has been in use for quite some time in their Ski-Doos. And actually, another version of this motor is their 1330cc Ace motor in their Ski-Doos. So the motor has been around a while, and if the motor has been around a while, then you know that the tweakers for this motor have been around a while. So I know that it's just a matter of time before somebody takes one of those other motors, bolts it up on here, or just takes the heads off of it and stick it down here. It's just a matter of time. Oh, this cold. Oh yeah, so that's pretty much all the extra stuff that I had. The machine is great, you know, and whatever one you decide to go with, RZR, X3, you can't go wrong, you know. And today the side-by-side, this industry is just going crazy, you know. They're coming out so fast. Every year there's a new one, you know. Next year this one's probably going to be obsolete again. You really can't go wrong, you know. Just have fun and be safe, right? We're expecting to get some unseasonably warm weather this weekend here in Michigan. They're talking upper 50s and possibly even 60s. If that's the case, I might take it out for a run. I'll bring along the camera. So if you're interested, you want to come along with me on my shenanigans, my adventures, and if you're curious about seeing also some of my, you know, when I was talking about how the machine, my other machine, the 2016, how that one ran, feel free to check out some of my other videos, because I brought my camera along when I'd run through the dunes and the trails and such. And you can see, you know, I mean, I do a lot of races, the thing's fast in a straight line, but then again, you'll see it don't turn so well. And then you'll see when I hit the bumps, the whoops, just the seat just banging away on my back. But if you're interested in this off-road side-by-side kind of stuff, subscribe, follow along. I'm going to be running this thing every weekend. You know, I'm going to be doing all kinds of stuff. I already ordered a tune. I already have an HMF pipe coming. It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. So, thanks for following along, listening to me rant. Hopefully, you know, we can make off-roading great again. You know, and we stop this whole, oh, you're a RZR guy, oh, you're a Can-Am guy. You know, they're both awesome machines. And if you're interested, subscribe, and come along with me on my craziness. Alright, see ya.